it either has to be somebody on the journey with you in a similar trajectory, somebody ahead of you who can say, oh yeah, you're crushing it. I've seen so much. I have the awareness to understand what growth looks like based on my own growth. I can see that you're growing.
One of the reasons why we, quite frankly, don't interview guests anymore is because we've started to understand that underneath those icebergs that look so big is sometimes just a little bit of ice. And sometimes the icebergs that look really small, there's like a lot of depth under there. And it's, a lot of character and greatness. So
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode, number 1068, 2 powerful questions that will change the way you think. Happy Saturday today for episode number 1069. Not everyone will recognize your growth. Mm-hmm. The other day, Alan, well, just for context, Alan and I, as well as the rest of the Next Level U team, we value people who are focused on improving, they're focused on self-awareness, and at the end of the day, we want to impact as many people as humanly possible. And that means that our team has grown, doubled over the last year or something like that. Tripled. That's a lot of
in the last year and a half.
So our team has gone from, 5 to 16?
Well, it was 2, and then it was 4, and then it was 5, and then it jumped to 8, and then it was 8 to 12, and now I think it's 16.
16?
Yeah. 16.
So
about to be 17. Actually.
It's wild. Well, that's where I got this story for this episode today.
Perfect.
Alan and I had a conversation, and we were saying, I think it's time to bring somebody new on the team. We have plenty of things going on. We have plenty to keep humans busy. And at this point, I think we've learned so much about running a team that it'll be easier than it's ever been to onboard somebody. And we're ready. We're ready for a bigger team. And I said, okay, cool. Let's prime our mind and we'll figure out who we think will be a good fit. That's what we've done thus far. It's always who is in the community that we know will be a good fit in terms of culture, personality, and their abilities. That's kind of how we do it. It's intuitive. And I said, I have an idea. And I told Alan, he said, okay, well, when the time is right, send this person a message and see if they're aligned. I said, okay, cool.
When you told me, I was pumped. I was like,
pumped.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes.
100%. Yeah.
Yes. So I sent this person a WhatsApp message and I just expressed my truth. And I said, hey, we have seen so much growth over the year and a half, 2 years, maybe 2.5 years of knowing you. Is being on this team something that you would enjoy? Is it something that you've thought of? Is it something that's aligned for you? And that's the short version. And this person sent me the sweetest audio message back saying, oh my goodness, I can't believe this. This is amazing. I am beyond grateful. But something she said really stuck out to me. She said, it's hard because you don't always feel like you're making progress. You don't always feel like you're having growth towards your goals. You don't always feel like things are changing. You don't always feel like you're further in the journey. And I sent this person an audio back and I said, well, you have to understand that it's very hard to recognize something that you haven't experienced before. So if you're looking for that significance or if you're looking for that credit from people outside of you, you're probably never going to feel like you're growing, because unless you've focused on growth, unless you've gone through that hard work, you're not necessarily going to notice that in somebody else. And I said, so Alan and I have noticed it tremendously. That's something that constantly jumps off the page anytime we talk about you. And the reason we notice it is because it's something we've been focused on. Number one, we value it. Number two, we've practiced it. And number three, we've really experienced what it's like to not recognize progress necessarily and not have people in our lives recognize progress. So that is the episode that we wanted to do today. Not everyone will recognize your growth, but number one, you have to have your own unique ways to do it. Number two, you have to understand that some people might never. Some people don't want to see you grow because you growing might mean you leaving them behind, so they're not going to recognize something that they're afraid of. And you just got to figure out, how do you measure it along the way, and what are the mile markers for you to realize that you're actually growing?
One thing that I've come to understand is that people usually do not recognize things unless they already value those things. So if you love cars and I suddenly were to buy a really amazing, incredible car, you would probably notice. But if people aren't really into growth or they don't value growth at a level 10, they probably won't. It won't even be on their radar. I'm reading a book right now called Peak Mind. And I just recommended it to Kev. It's awesome. And it's a researcher. What's her name? Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Just bought it on Audible 2 days ago. And I was ranting and raving about this book to Emilia because I love the idea of your attention and your focus. So it's called Peak Mind. Find your focus, own your attention, invest 10 minutes a day. It's mental training, essentially. I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this correctly. Amishi P. Jha is the author, and she's awesome. And I'm pretty sure it's read by the author on Audible as well. So phenomenal book. She's a researcher. She's been researching focus and attention for 20 plus years. She talks about this one thing. Kev, I don't know if you've ever seen this video online, but there's a video online that's an attention test. It's a really famous study they did. It's a video of two basketball teams. One of them has white shirts on, and I forget the color of the other team, but I've seen this video before. And they ask you, it says, hey, this is a video that's going to test your ability to pay attention. And I'm paraphrasing. Count the number of times that the team in the white shirts pass the ball. And at the end of it, it says, what was your answer? And if your answer was 15 or 16 or whatever, you were right. And then it goes, second question, did you see the dancing bear? And when you watch it the second time, you see a bear in the middle of the court dancing and like coming through, doing like a moonwalk through and you didn't notice it the first time. And they've done this countless times with tons of different people. No one ever notices the dancing bear. So my point, until after the mind is primed for it. So at the end, you're like, did you notice the dancing bear? Now your RAS, your reticular activating system, is primed. Your mind is primed for looking for that. And so you notice the dancing bear the second time. And it's like, how in the heck did I not see that the first time? It's such a cool experiment. So anyways, our attention, she researched attention for 20 plus years. Our attention is a filtration system of we get rid of everything that is not immediately relevant based on our subconscious goals and desires and values and fears. So if you're out there listening or watching this, I want you to think about what you fear. I want you to think about your goals. I want you to think about what you desire. And I want you to think about what you value. The persons, places, things, and ideas that fall under those categories are the things you're going to notice. So if you don't care about cars and I get a new car and I post about it on Facebook, you're going to probably scroll right past it. If you're Kevin and you care a lot about cars and I get his dream car, think about this. Imagine if I got Kevin's dream car and he saw it on my Facebook. First of all, he'd freak out. I'm joking. But like, he's never going to not notice that. But I would scroll right past that thing. Like, I could give an F, honestly. That's okay. I don't value cars. Kevin does. That's okay. But if you were to put Peak Mind on your Instagram or your Facebook, I'm going to notice it. And I'm going to be like, Peak Mind, focus, change your life. Oh my God. Because I value books, especially good books, at such a deep level. So to bring this back to Kevin's original point, this person doesn't feel like they've grown a lot because, number one, it's difficult to recognize on the day-to-day until you look back. So it might as well be perspective round 8. We've probably done like 8 or 9 episodes of that. So this person that we're referring to on this episode, they probably haven't looked back in a long time at their old content or their old photos or their old journals. Our next episode, I'm going to be going through an old journal, and that's going to create some serious perspective. But number 2, if she's not surrounded by a bunch of people who really value growth and can recognize it because it's something they practice, which, by the way, if they really valued it, they'd also practice it. We embody what we value. So don't let anyone fool you, including Kevin and I. If we say we value personal development, but we stop reading books and we stop listening to podcasts and we stop learning and growing and we stop listening to YouTube and we stop doing personal development, we don't really value it. We're just saying that, right? So actions are the tell-all. I often say that the difference between what you say and what you do is the size of your ego. And so this person who feels like they haven't been recognized, or maybe people didn't recognize the progress that she's made. The reason Kevin and I have recognized so much progress is because it's on our radar. Think about it. Months ago, Kevin and I are like, we really need another team member, but we don't want anyone who's not super aligned. And Kev says, hey, by the way, so we primed our reticular activating system, look for the dancing bear. And then literally Kev is sitting there going, oh, okay, by the way, this person would be a perfect fit. And then I go, absolutely, 100%. That's such a good idea. And then we waited a little while because this person's in group coaching, and we sent the message. And so if this person feels like they are not getting the credit that they've maybe earned, or maybe they're not recognizing their own progress, it's because they haven't gotten enough perspective, or the people around them probably aren't able to notice the progress. It's very difficult to notice that which you don't value. Genuinely. As a matter of fact, most of us delete most of the world from our consciousness. Like if you don't love basketball, the chances of you knowing who won the finals are very, very slim, right? I mean, Kev, you and I, don't watch soccer. We don't know who won the last World Cup. Most of the world does, or a lot of the world, I should say. That's not because we're inherently bad and because they didn't work hard. It's not, it's because it's just filtered out. It's filtered out of our consciousness. So I think it's important to understand that.
It's interesting because oftentimes and again, this is a tough example, but I think it's the best example because I think it's the most visually accurate way to see growth. Many times we separate ourselves from people who we used to spend time with, and that's one of the best ways to see growth. As an example, I had somebody reach out to me today, somebody I haven't talked to in years, probably like 2 or 3 years, and this person was asking me about relationships because I just got married, and that's like a marker of success. If you get married, you're probably, and I'm not saying this is true, but if you get married, you're probably pretty successful when it comes to relationships, right? And again, I'm not saying it's true for everybody, but I like to think it's true for me. And this person was asking me questions, and I had a moment, Alan, where this was it's strange for me. I was like, I can see all the blind spots just from the way the message was sent. With the words in it, I can see all the blind spots. All of them. Not all of them, many of them. I don't want to claim that I can see everything. And I sent a message and said, well, you have to understand from what I've seen over time, one of the biggest predictors of a successful relationship is the amount of self-worth in the relationship. And that's just something you and I have seen time and time and time again. And this person said, yeah, the person I was with had low self-worth. I wasn't talking about the person you were with. I was talking about you.
Yeah.
And the fact that you didn't see that shows me, number one, it's a blind spot in me that everybody is looking at their own level of self-worth. But that person probably hasn't grown that much. I've grown a ton. But you might not be in those situations because maybe you're separating yourself and distancing yourself from those people. Maybe the people that were your friends are now in the maintenance bucket and you're not seeing them as much. So to Alan's point, I think one of the reasons I love talking about perspective so much is because it's something I require a lot. I need perspective because I forget. I forget that 5 years ago I wasn't doing this, or I forget that we've done 1,070 episodes. Like, I don't think about that on the day-to-day. I think about it when we record, but it's not something I'm constantly thinking about.
Well, you're focused on the future.
More than I ever
the now
have been.
and the future, right?
Yeah.
Building in the now and focusing on the future. So we reflect on the past a lot too. I think
I do less than I used to, though.
Oh, okay. You used to do
Less.
that more often?
For sure.
Well, I think it's probably because you focus on the future more now than you used to, right? So before you probably focused on the present and the past more, and now you're focused more on the future. So, yeah.
Hi there. This is Dr. Tarryn MacCarthy, and I am the host of the Business of Happiness podcast, which would not be in existence were it not for the one and only incredible Kevin Palmieri. Seriously, I am so indebted to Kevin for the service that he provides. Every week he meets with me. He has been coaching me on how to initiate and launch this podcast. He helped me put it together with his great expertise, and every week his whole team works tirelessly to get these podcasts uploaded to Buzzsprout and to deliver my content to my audience. I am so grateful. I couldn't say enough about him. In fact, we've been working together so well. I've seen so much wonderful input from my listeners and asking me for more, that in just a few weeks we're going to be doubling the number of podcasts we produce per week. So this trajectory is just flying, and I'm really enjoying the whole process. So I couldn't say enough about him. Please, if this is something you're considering, I highly recommend him. And reach out to me anytime if you have any questions about our experience. Good luck. Bye-bye.
This person, by the way, I just want to use this as an opportunity to learn a lesson myself and for the listeners. That person who reached out to you reached out because they value marriage.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
And that's, you got married, so now you've succeeded at one of their desires, one of their dreams, one of their goals. And one thing that I've been very humbled by in this journey, just being honest here, is what I think that a lot of the things that I think a lot of the things that other people value, maybe I'm not as focused on. And I don't know if I'm embodying them in the way that other people would. So I'll give another example. I know I keep talking about the marathon, so I apologize. It won't be every episode from now on, I promise. But that is something that I had someone reach out to me when I posted about the marathon, who has done 5 or 6 marathons. She's about to do her 6th, and I had my aunt reach out too, and she's like, I want to sign you up for this 10K. When you do something that other people value, the law of attraction starts to work in the way that it's supposed to. And so I told my aunt, like, she's about to do a Ironman in Ireland. That's like, no. So she didn't want me to sign up for that, but she wanted to sign me up for the October. There's a 10K in October. And I'm like, I got to tell her, like, Auntie, I'm trying to do bodybuilding. Like, I did that on a whim. I'm not trying to be a marathoner or a triathlete. Like, I genuinely want to go back to being a bodybuilder. And guess what? The bodybuilders of the world will recognize and see that value in that content. Just like when Kevin's very focused on strength in the gym, so he notices people that are really strong. I'm more focused on aesthetics and holistic wellness, so I notice people who are really aesthetic, especially when I was competing. And so what you focus on is predicated on what you fear and on what you desire. And if you have specific goals to get married, for example, and you notice that Kevin and Tarryn got married, you're going to notice them even more. And I think that that's a good thing. And so this person that we started this episode about, the people who value growth are going to recognize your growth. And if people around you are not recognizing your progress and your growth, maybe they're really not growing. I remember one time I was in a relationship that really bothered me because I didn't feel very valued. And one of the reasons, and I learned this later, I didn't understand this back then, one of the reasons I wasn't valued is because the things that I was working on weren't valued. It's not necessarily that I'm not valued. It's the fact that if I'm focused on personal development and I'm focused on dream chasing and entrepreneurship and I'm focused on, helping other people and impacting other people in personal development, and this other person that I'm with doesn't value personal development, and my whole world is revolving around personal development, what are the chances I'm going to feel super valued? So two lessons here. One, people embody what they value. If you value fitness, you will embody fitness. You'll go to the gym. You'll be focused on YouTube channels about fitness, and you'll listen to motivational fitness videos, right? Some of my clients that are into fitness, I'm telling you, they embody it every single day. So you embody what you value. The people who recognize your value are going to be the people who value what you value. And the very last thing I'll say here, Kev, is I use this analogy all the time. I said this on Relationship Talks on Saturday. Imagine I go to a wedding and Kevin's there. And Kevin and I don't know each other. And he's where he is now, trying to grow and scale a global podcast, and I am too, right? And we've never met. Let's hypothetical world. And I start talking about podcasting, and I start talking about the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth by John Maxwell and how to grow and scale a business. And I start talking about, leading a team effectively and trying to have more humility and consistency. And I start talking about, different departments. Kevin is going to notice, oh, okay, like, interesting, like, he's a podcaster too. And Kevin's going to make a mental note, like, I'm going to go talk to him. I want to talk to him about his podcast, and maybe we can learn something from each other. right? Versus the other people in the room might not know what podcasts are. They might not listen to podcasts. They might not care very much. They might not be business owners. They might not be entrepreneurs. It's the law of attraction at work. And so if you're expecting validation from others, be careful, because a lot of people are not going to value what you value, and that's what makes you unique. And I've made this mistake so many years of my life, and I'm finally starting to understand why my influence is so low with certain people.
I'm gonna try to say this quick so we don't have another 40-minute episode. But there's so many things coming. Like this is a great, number one, I think it's a great topic, but I think we're approaching it in a way that maybe we haven't before, or maybe it's been a long time. We hear often, don't judge others. Take the word judge, and you can do whatever you want with that word. It's not about judging others, it's about measuring. Not measuring others, but measuring yourself. That's what jumps off the page to me, where every time I meet somebody new who... I told you this story a while ago. Tarryn and I went out with some of her friends, and one of them has like a really interesting job where they work with a lot of money and they invest in other companies, and that's something I value. I was like, oh wow, like somebody who's in the entrepreneurial space and learning a lot and all about business and money and all this, awesome. And I remember there were some things that were said where like, he's like, oh, I just wake up when I want. I just sleep in. I don't set an alarm. You know, like I just kind of, I only work a couple hours a day. And I remember hearing that, and it was like, it showed me how much I've grown. I might not have the shiny thing that this person has in terms of the job or whatever, but I do have all the work behind the scenes. And that shows me that I've actually grown more than I realized. I think it's hard because nobody shows you how much they're actually growing. They just show you what they have. So it's very hard but use that as a measurement. I had this breakthrough. That's all I'm doing when I say, well, I met this person at blank and this is what I learned. It just helps me remeasure where I am.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
In
it's just
statistical comparison.
That's it. That's it. And that's what I
mirror.
want. That's the mirror.
That's the mirror. Yeah.
Right. And that's what I want everyone to have the opportunity to do. You have to figure out what are the milestones, what are the signs on the road for you. For me, it's meeting humans who I assume are ahead of me in terms of, we'll just say self-improvement. Personal development set point is something we say. Do they holistically know more about the world than I do? And that's...
I got to ask you this.
It's going to be a 75-minute episode.
No.
Strap in.
So I got to ask you this. What was it like before when you would meet people? Okay. If you presuppose that everyone is more well-developed than you because of the stuff they have, you're almost always going to be wrong.
I always thought that.
Okay, what's that like? What do you think now? Because let's give this gift to our listeners.
Yeah.
If you're judging, if you're measuring, strong work on that.
I like that.
If you're measuring someone else's personal development set point based on what they have, almost no one is actually.
Yeah.
Like, that's been very shocking. And I've talked to billionaires, millionaires, people that are broke and struggling, everything in between. And never is the personal development set point the same as the stuff they have. Almost never. Yeah. So that's not the measure. In my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
But I do think most of the world measures that way, which I think is something I'm coming to understand. Yeah. That's like measuring someone's actual athleticism based on just one metric, like their aesthetics. There's a lot of people that are very aesthetic that are not athletic at all. You know what I mean? I mean, that's like plastic surgery. So imagine someone who got a lot of plastic surgery and looks athletic, but doesn't actually work out. That's a lot of what that kind of, and again, I'm not trying to, be mean to anyone who gets plastic surgery or anything like that. But honestly, that's a lot of what people are doing is they're looking successful or they're looking well-developed more than they actually are doing the behind-the-scenes work a lot of times. And I've found some people that look unsuccessful that are actually unbelievably well-developed. And then I've met a lot of people who look unbelievably successful and they're very, very underdeveloped. And so it's definitely hard to wean through all this. But what's your take? Because I think you are coming from that other frame.
I just think I still kind of believe that. I think my initial belief is usually limiting, and it's usually this person is way ahead. I think that's just the way I'm wired.
Have you found that to be true ever lately?
No. Way less than it's ever been, for sure. But now I think at least I have the awareness to understand that. Before, I didn't have the awareness. It's weird. It's like the awareness fills in the gap to at least understand this person. Go ahead.
Yeah. Here's a good analogy. Imagine you know everything about cars. Everything. And I have a brand new Lamborghini, but you open the hood and it's a crappy engine. I wouldn't know that that's a crappy engine because I don't know anything about cars. Whereas you would be like, oh, that's actually a terrible car. That's kind of what, yeah, exactly. And then you imagine you open my Subaru, all, paint chipping, crappy, and then you open the engine, you're like, oh, whoa. In a race, this wouldn't be close. So just for all of our listeners, I want to give them this gift. You don't want to judge an iceberg by what you see on the surface.
No.
That's a very dangerous game because most of everything is below the surface and it's not always pretty. And Kevin and I, one of the reasons why we quite frankly don't interview guests anymore is because we've started to understand that underneath those icebergs that look so big is sometimes just a little bit of ice. And sometimes the icebergs that look really small, there's like a lot of depth under there. And it's, a lot of character and greatness. So I guess, my last question for you would be this. What do you recommend for our listeners based on this?
I think what you just said is probably the best frame is you can really only compare what was under the water, under the iceberg, beneath the surface for you a year ago versus now, because that's all that really, in a way, it's almost all that matters. The results will come eventually after the awareness. That's what I would say. And figure out what your markers are. My markers are just other human beings where I can see things and say, oh, wow, I never thought that I would look at it from this perspective. That's what helps me. Having conversations with people, being on podcasts, coaching calls, that all helps me because it's very much, oh, I remember that stage in this journey for me. I remember that blank. I've never thought of that before. Right? So maybe I'm not as far along as I thought. It's important to be on both ends, but I think to your point, Alan, it really is the iceberg analogy.
You ever seen that meme with the two carrots? There's a bunny. There's a bunny and you can see above the ground and below the ground. And one of them has huge carrot stalks. Yeah. And it's a tiny little carrot under the ground. And then the other one is this massive carrot with these tiny little green stalks. And so from above the ground, it looks like one of them is much more valuable. Yeah. You gotta read the book to know the value of the book. You can't just look at the cover. And of course, everybody looks at the cover at first, right? So it's important to look at the cover too. But, for all of our listeners, try to measure yourselves more accurately. That's really all it is. And that's what Kevin and I are trying to do. And we can't pretend to say we figured this out because I'm always trying to reassess where I fit in all of this as I grow. And it's difficult because the more you grow, the more you become aware of. And then you kind of have to reassess everything again. And then you grow again. And then you have to reassess everything again. And it's weird because until you reassess, you don't really grow. Yeah. So it's been a hell of a journey.
Well, we'll never run out of growing pains episodes. I don't think that'll ever happen. I don't think we'll ever run out. But I do think it's important because if you don't know how to measure it, you might not recognize it. That was my lesson for this episode is it's almost like it either has to be somebody on the journey with you in a similar trajectory, somebody ahead of you who can say, oh yeah, you're crushing it. I've seen so much. I have the awareness to understand what growth looks like based on my own growth. I can see that you're growing. Or
what did you recognize in this person that she didn't recognize in herself?
Confidence. 100%. 100%.
What were the indicators?
Leadership. Leadership was one. Getting outside of her comfort zone on her own. There's telltales for me because those were my measures of growth. So I can see it very easily like, oh, this person's volunteering to be called on in group coaching. That wasn't happening the first time.
Yeah. True.
Right? That sort of thing for me is but that person might not recognize it.
She didn't.
So it's such an interesting thing. And again, it's par for the course. right? When your awareness gets raised, then your awareness gets raised in other areas and other arenas, and it's always it's a never-ending game, and it's like a tennis match. It goes one way, and then it goes the other way, and it goes another way, and yeah, forever. Anything to add to that? What are your thoughts on
That's
all
it,
that?
man.
Okay, cool.
What are your thoughts on all that? No, we're good. It's a valuable episode.
I enjoyed this one. Next level.
Same.
Nation. If you are somebody who is into growth, you're listening to this podcast right now, and you might be saying to yourself, you guys talk about having all these listeners and you talk about having this amazing community. Where can I learn more about this community? We have a private Facebook group called Next Level Nation. There are posts in there every single day from myself, Alan, the team, the amazing community members. And at the end of the day, it gives you an opportunity to be yourself. We've had many people do some really powerful, vulnerable shares in there. It's a safe place to be yourself, and it's a great place to meet other like-minded individuals who want to get to the next level. So link will be in the show notes. You're always welcome, and we would love to see more of you.
Huge shout out to the person who this episode was about. Of course, we will keep it anonymous. But this person did group coaching during the very first group, Ambitious Army. And the reason we were able to recognize how much she's grown is because of the measurement of group 1 versus group 7 she's in right now. But it's actually, from her perspective, she got to see how much group coaching improved. Because she was there for group 1 when it was brand new, and now 7 groups later, we've got a workbook and an assistant coach, and we've got Zoom registration links, and we've just improved tremendously over time, which is awesome. So Group 8 is launching on October 4th. I'm on the website right now. It is in 50 days from right now. We already have 2 people locked down. We will not be taking another. We only do 10 people every quarter. So if you have been intrigued by group coaching, one of the reasons why we get so many people back into group coaching is because they know what it feels like to be held accountable and to be with a group of people, and then they want to come back. I mean, our assistant coach, Greg, did group coaching 4 different times. And the reason why is because he loved the accountability. He loved the private WhatsApp group. He loved the Peak Performance Partner. We partner you up in there. We set you up for a runway of success, essentially is what group coaching is. So we've got a full workbook, private WhatsApp group. Join us. There's an application online. If you apply right now, you'll be put on a list and we will message you. I hope that you apply, and the link will be in the show notes.
Boom. Next Level Nation tomorrow for episode number 1070. Happy Sunday tomorrow. One word nobody likes, but everyone needs. I am very excited to talk about that. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Please reach out.